Hello.
It's magic.
Welcome back to the Synchronicity Podcast. Shiloh's making an appearance. Hi, bud.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is our polka dotted Dalmatian, because all Dalmatians are polka dotted, in case you didn't know that. But ours is named Shiloh. And she's very spoiled. So
She's special.
anyway, she's here. We are the Synchronicity Sisters. We change your brain to change your life. We change the neuroplasticity in your brain to a new and upgraded program. And essentially all the things that your parents didn't teach you or society brainwashed you into, we reprogram using microdosing, not using microdosing. We believe that psychedelics have a profound place in the future of society for reprogramming and changing the brain, but we do not believe in and take a pill and fix it. So yeah, welcome to our show. If you're new, thank you for being here. If you're old, we love you, and we're so glad that you continue to listen and for your continued support. We would not be here without our clients and without you guys listening, because we'd have no one to talk to, and that would be very strange. So, even though technically we're talking to a camera right now, but, you know, we're both Geminis, well, Gemini placements, and so we're quite chatty. But today we're going to talk about Andropause. This was a requested show because we had mentioned Andropause in another podcast episode, and I forget the girl's name, but she messaged us on Instagram.
It was like Sun-Kissed something. It was a really cute Instagram.
Anyway, she looked lovely, and I told her that we would do this podcast because this is actually a super important podcast, but we just hadn't really gotten there because, again, we have like thousands of subjects. But I believe that this is a very, very important one because it actually changes the dynamic of a relationship, and it actually completely changes men. So andropause is not talked about as much as menopause, but men do go through a hormone change. Even though they don't become infertile like women do, they still have a huge hormone shift around the age of 45 is when it starts. So you see a lot of men like around 45 kind of get soft. Well, their testosterone drops and the estrogen turns on in their body. So this is, and then men start to become like, I don't know, you know how old men are just like super nice? And
they're like giant
snuggly?
teddy bears.
Yeah, that's andropause
And they're so
starting.
chatty, and they just like want to tell you their life story and give you life advice and talk to you, and they're lonely because their women have gone absolutely batty, and they're like mean and old, and these just... men are just now like, I just want someone to talk to and someone to have breakfast with and like someone to be nice to me.
Well, and in case you didn't know, right? So this is like humans, God's cruel joke, is that women bond, right? Up until menopause, estrogen mixes with oxytocin and we bond immediately. When we go through menopause, progesterone takes over, right? And our adrenals take over from our ovaries. And so we become more masculine because progesterone is a lot like testosterone in the body. So we no longer bond. And when men go through andropause, the estrogen turns on and bonds with oxytocin. So then men bond like women, like young women. So old men and young women bond. Young men and old women don't bond. Like a funny joke.
That's why they get the term like horny old lady. Like she's literally like a horny teenager.
Because she turns into a boy. Mm-hmm. Not like physically.
No, but like chemically.
But
chemically.
Yeah, chemically. Like, she no longer bonds, so she can fuck you and walk over your body and leave. Never care.
And it's funny because this whole like, oh, well, she's dating him because she's a gold digger and she's young. And like right now you're seeing, I recently saw there's like a celebrity couple. Whoa.
Sounds like an old man.
It's not even a celebrity couple. I can't remember the name. He's like big up in the NFL. Well, his girlfriend is like 45 years younger than him, but chemically it makes sense.
45 years?
Yeah, he's like 74 and she's like 29.
Okay, that has nothing to do with attraction. He's rich.
Okay, well, even if he is rich.
He's rich.
But it kind of is like this whole thing right now, like, oh, well, she's just a gold digger. But like chemically, she's bonding and he's bonding if you think about it chemically.
Older men are easier to manipulate because they bond.
Yeah, exactly. So good for her, but also 45-year gap is aggressive.
That's gross.
Yeah.
15 years, I totally understand. 15 years is totally... Anything more than that, we're getting into grandpa territory. That's sugar daddy shit. That is not...
well, you know...
There's no bonding really going on. That's a transaction.
Yeah. I mean...
That's a transactional money relationship.
So oh my gosh, we're having microphone problems. So I guess
you're like beating up your microphone
and
then
you like
blaming
moved yours and yours is all squeaky. I know, I got it caught. Okay, anyway, so back to this. So that's like an example of it just on the chemical level, disregarding the fact that he has money or whatever. That's probably a sugar daddy situation.
Oh, it's absolutely a sugar daddy situation.
But they do bond. The girl and the older man, they're chemically on the bonding aspect. They both
bond.
So, in that particular, that was a really bad example. But anyways, it's just been in the media.
Yeah, so it's quite fascinating, right? Is part of why we did this podcast was because she was like, "Oh my gosh, my dad's doing that." Okay, so what we had said on an earlier podcast was this. So men can pretty much fuck around and find out until 45. Once they hit 45 and that estrogen turns on, if they're not cherished, they will die. If they're not cherished, they will get ED. Welcome to the Thunderdome, men. This will probably be titled How to Not Get ED, because this is how you don't get ED. You find a woman that loves you and cherishes you when you are going through Andropause, and if your heart is activated, you will never have ED. Mark my words. This is Taoism. This is Eastern philosophy. I've read many books about why men get ED. They get ED because their woman that is their heart is either fucked up, doesn't love them, is fucking other men. They just have a totally disconnect in their relationship, or they don't have a woman at all. And when you don't have a woman at all over the age of 45 and estrogen has turned on in your body, you will collapse into addiction and die. And a woman counts as a daughter, a sister, a mother, or a partner of some sort, right? So any feminine energy in your life will keep you grounded, will keep you alive, will keep you from collapsing completely into hedonism. Now, you still might have alcoholics and things like that, but you won't actually die. Well, I shouldn't say won't actually.
You might emotionally
you still
die.
might die. But you won't actually die from collapse or a Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which is dying of a broken heart. Men will die of a broken heart because they literally don't have a energetic heart without women. So in Eastern philosophy, you learn that women are positively charged in their heart space, negatively charged in the womb space, and men are positively charged in the penis and negatively charged in the heart. So when you get a couple, you become a full being, right? There's actually 4 people in a relationship, and we'll talk about that more later, but everybody's androgynous, so you have masculine, feminine. So there's 4 of you.
That's a whole totally different
in a
podcast.
relationship.
Yes.
But it's really, really important that we switch dialogues when men go through Andropause. So instead of what do you think, after Andropause, you go into how do you feel? Because I ask my dad this all the time, and he just lights up because nobody asks him that. And he's through Andropause. He's older. We're his daughters. We have to cherish him. And he just lights up, and you can just see it. It's like asking a young woman, how do you feel? Old women don't give a fuck. Ask them what they think. It doesn't matter. They don't really have...
They're like on a rampage.
They're like 19-year-old little boys. They're so strange. I will be one of them someday, but hopefully I have enough feminine energy and enough knowledge that I don't have...
succumb to addiction.
Well, norepinephrine turn on in my brain, and then the party
nutty.
starts. So we'll do a podcast on norepinephrine and menopause, but norepinephrine also turns on during andropause, which causes men to collapse into hedonism, and they will succumb to the material plane. And so this is why we're doing this podcast, because feminine energy literally sustains male life. Even there's medical papers written on Takotsubo cardiomyopathies or dying of a broken heart. And I remember when I went through my first heartbreak, and it's actually the only time it's ever happened, but I didn't really believe in this until I thought back to that. And I was like, oh yeah, your heart. I thought I was dying. I called my mother and I was like, I'm dying. She's like, no, you have a broken heart. And I'm like, no, I'm dying. And I was like 23. It was so funny, but
your heart didn't have a heart attack though.
It didn't have a heart attack, but I felt the pain, right? But I had a young and healthy heart. Think about having an older heart, and if you have any kind of blockages or issues, right? And I'm also a woman. So, people can die of a broken heart. Actually, I think it was in Shady Brook or one of the school shootings down in Texas. One of the teachers got shot and died. And then her husband of 45 years died 3 days later of a Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. This stuff happens, and you see it in the news. And there's actually energetic ties between men and women. And this is really important. Why, as a woman, you guide communication, we are love. We have to understand more than men do. Whether you like it or not, we have more responsibility. Get over it. Like, talk to God. God's first joke was estrogen. His second joke was oxytocin. Well, then men get to have that joke after 45 when they're older, and they actually have to realize that they're human, because men don't realize that they're human until about 45. They start to really understand their morality. We kind of figure that out when our clock turns on, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, like baby. Men go through Andropause and then recognize that. So it's about 10 years after women. So even though it's a little bit different, that's when men start to realize I'm mortal. Women kind of figure that out in their early 30s. They're like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna be able to have babies forever. Oh my gosh. Like it's quite literally that's very similar energetically. It just happens at different times. Men think that they can conquer the world until about 45. And then if they get all into biohacking and start like injecting tea and doing all this stuff to try to counteract it, and it doesn't work because they still have estrogen in their body now and it's turned on, and sorry, get over it. Like, you better have a wife or a partner that loves you very deeply, or have a daughter or someone, because she's now your lifeline to planet Earth and staying here and being a conducive part of mankind. So that's kind of why men like mature at 45, because estrogen turns on in their body. Before that, they're just like all ramped up on testosterone. Like, I gotta like spread my seed and adventure. So if you're with a dude that's like that, just realize like that's just hormones. It's just kind of like
just let him.
I'm going through something like that, and it's like, okay, like go have adventures. See ya. Like, have fun.
I'll be here with my girlfriend.
I'll be here with my sister and my friends, like, and my Dalmatian, like doing my podcast. So, just have your own life and just understand men. But Andropause is a big shift. And so many people are going to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, like, I see it. Yes. And that's why a lot of like very alpha men don't settle down until their 40s, because until they get into Andropause, they literally have too much testosterone to focus on one woman. They like struggle bonding, right? And if they don't have high vaspressin, which is a whole different podcast, but, yeah, it's just a really good thing to know. And it's also really important to know so you keep the men in your life alive that you love. Because we really are, we play a role in that. And that's important to understand as the feminine, to love your men. Love them.
And, I think feminines spend so much time like in their own little bubble that they kind of just think, oh, well, men are just, their usual, like, they don't have these ebb and flows of, like, what we go through.
The hormones.
Yeah. And so understanding it, like, from a biological perspective also gives you some, like, empathy and, like, understanding. Like, my dad used to be such an asshole. Like, such an asshole.
Well,
like,
he was an alpha.
Such an alpha.
Yeah.
And now he's all, like, soft and, like...
He's so sweet.
Feels. And I'm like, oh... It's so cute. But making sure that, like, circling back around, like, if you do have a man in your life who is gone through Andropause, who's over the age of 45, just not necessarily don't stop respecting him. Please still respect him. But, at the end of a conversation, just asking him, like, how he feels is going to be a huge shift. And also be open and understanding to those feelings, because they're going to start being... they're pretty much a totally different person chemically, right? Because before, women, right, we can, like, talk about our feelings, and then all of a sudden a man goes through Andropause, and then he's talking about his feelings, and it's very new to him, because for 45 years of his life, feelings were very, like, what is this? So having some grace and understanding that, like, the dialogue may shift, and he may be asking you more questions and being more curious about your feelings. Now, most likely a masculine man considered your feelings prior to that, but he may start asking you more and wanting more in-depth questions, and you're like, I don't give a fuck. Okay, well, you got to have some grace, and you have to have some communication, and you have to understand that the dynamics of the relationship have slightly shifted.
Completely shifted.
Yeah. So, where you used to want to talk about your feelings, you started being like, well, I don't give a shit. I want to go travel and do all these things. Yeah, fuck feelings. Now he's like, let's have feelings and let's cuddle and like, let's do things together. And women are like, once they go through menopause, are like, I'm a free bird. I'm out. I raised my kids. I'm going to go travel the world. And they're like going to pickleball and like doing all the things. And like, you see it quite often where like the women become like, go into more like women groups and like kind of leave their poor husbands. And their husbands are like, wait, I want to snuggle you and spend time with you, and they become a lot more soft. So just be mindful of like, if he is more like lovey-dovey and he wants more date nights and stuff like that, most likely he is starting through andropause. Just be open to it and be willing to negotiate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's kind of God's joke of like, then we're one way and then we have to learn how to be the other way and have compassion for the other person in that, and like realize like, oh, now I don't have that bonding. Like, weird. Where's the oxytocin hit every time I smell him? Or like, where is this? It's just really funny, right? Like, oh yeah, we get comfortable and then we have to like switch dynamics. So, just being aware of this is huge. I know it really was big for me, and it's even funny, like when I look at some of my past relationships and things, and I'm like, oh, and even like current relationship, I'm like, oh, like that makes sense. Like he's still in his like. He's not through andropause or anything, so he's like, bah! And then I look back at, like, some of the other guys that were in their early 40s, and I'm like, oh, right, they were starting through andropause. They're like, oh. It's just funny, like, if you think back to, like, dating history, or just, and it doesn't even have to be dating history. Some of the people I even think about are friends. And you're just like, oh, that makes sense. There was such a shift where they got, like, really soft. Like, oh, duh. And because of the patriarchy, and again, I think the patriarchy has a lot of value if the matriarchy is equal with it, but the patriarchy doesn't want to talk about that they go through andropause. So that's why
no, they're like in denial.
It's not
the minute
common
you say
knowledge.
Estrogen, they're like, eh.
Like doctors never talk about it and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we can bash menopause, and I don't even know why it's called like a menopause, right?
Menopause.
Metapause starts with man.
Menopause. Well, MEN, not MAN, but yeah, I follow.
Menopause.
Well,
you gotta name everything after a man.
Literally,
should be woman pause.
Woman pause.
Woman
pause.
Like fuck off. Anyway, but
all right,
men got to name everything.
They did.
We'll have our time. But anyway, andropause is huge. If you have any questions about it, or you want us to go like super scientific. We try not to go super scientific, even though we know the science behind all of it, because I don't think people really want to hear that. They just want to know like how to implement it into their lives. So if you want a full like science breakdown, we could do that. But I think that this just tells you essentially T goes down, estrogen goes up, and feelings turn on. That is andropause, and men will fight it and be in the gym and try to like, they're freaking out because their muscle mass is going down and all sorts of stuff. But anyway,
it's a thing.
If you're getting ED, and we'll probably do a separate podcast on that, like find a woman that loves you and then all of a sudden your dick will work. It's crazy how that happens. I've known men in their 30s that have
We literally just gave away our like ED hack. We could be billionaires.
Oh, we shouldn't teach half of this.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, there's so many like ED clinics. They're like, here, I'm going to give you a shot of testosterone and your penis is going to get hard again. Well, like, temporarily.
Oh, and the other thing...
This is like the life hack for long-term
So there was... Actually, I'll give you another hack. There was actually a ton of studies done on andropause and, like, T-shot. Actually, it worked better for men to build communities where they were around young women that were ovulating. Their testosterone stayed higher.
There you go.
In that, right there, I just cost us millions, than getting T-shots. So, even if you're, married or whatever, it's really important for men to be around women that are ovulating because it just keeps their testosterone levels up. So, also another women, get off birth control. You're fucking up men. You're lowering their testosterone levels, and everybody likes testosterone. So,
well, yeah, and if you want to know that chemical, like that whole chemical breakdown, your brain on birth control book, it will fuck your head up.
Yeah, well,
but that will fuck your head up.
It's not even telling you what it's doing to men, which is like our testosterone levels right now, which is crazy. So when they do sperm counts on young men, they would have been considered infertile 20 years ago. Their sperm count is so low.
Yeah.
And by 2040, testosterone is supposed to be 0. So get off birth control. Get your shit straight. Stop being a dick to your men. Men, start being kind, not nice, and step into your masculinity, because that will also keep your testosterone levels higher. Mm-hmm. Get out. Have adventures. Be around all sorts of different types of people of all different ages.
Just get some sunshine.
Sun your balls.
I knew you were going to say that.
Sun your balls.
Eat good meat.
Red meat also helps.
Be a human and don't be a creature in front of your computer, and your life will change.
Yeah. Stop jacking off. Also, that causes ED. If you're jacking off to porn, you're going to have ED.
Well, and you're killing yourself slowly just by your chi, but that's a totally different podcast
not even
for
porn.
A different day.
Yeah, that's just like if you're jacking off a lot, you're going to die young. But
yeah. Anyway, so if you have any other questions about Andropause, feel free to comment. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, share. If you are on Apple, Spotify, please like the show, comment, share with your friends, tag us on social media. If you have any suggestions or there's anything we touched in a podcast, let us know, and we can always elaborate, just like today's podcast was created from a listener hopping in being like, yo, elaborate on that. So once again, thank you to, I think it was like sun_kisses. I totally did. And if you are
just like, share, just be a part of our community.
I totally forgot where I stopped in the last one, but it's okay.
Yeah, let us know if you have any topics. We're happy that you're here. Until the next time.
Bye.